Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring the Royal Navy Tier 9 battleship, the Lion. Now, first things first, you might see that, well, the matchmaking is Tier 9, which is of course pretty favorable to us. You might see that it reminds us very much of the Isla, because very much the same turret setup. However, while the default guns on this ship are 406s, you can actually upgrade them to the guns I have right now, which are the 419s, which are exactly the same guns you have on the Conqueror. And, well, I doubt I need to explain to you just how good these guns are on the Conqueror. You've seen more than enough evidence of that, and they are of course exactly as great on the Lion. You simply have one turret less. The firing arcs, well, you can see the back turret kind of hits the superstructure, so the firing arcs aren't really that forgiving. Is this carrier really gonna go for me? Well, I'm running fire prevention, not AFT, which is lucky for him, but the HMS Lion actually has very good anti-air, and if you decide to spec for the anti-air, it becomes even greater. These tier 7 planes, well, they just disappear, they melt. I have very little fear of giving broadside here to this Missouri, because, well, goodbye planes, because the Citadel on the ship is practically underwater. Even if you look at the lowered Citadel of the Iowa and the Missouri, I'm going to compare a lot to the Missouri because I consider it the strongest tier 9 battleship, so I'm going to make a lot of comparisons to it. Right, so even the lowered Citadel of the Missouri is not nearly as low as the Citadel on the Lion. The Lion Citadel is practically untouchable. It's so deep underwater, you're gonna need a small act of God to actually be able to hit it. Now the Missouri is of course angling, so I switch from my AP shells to my HE shells. And as you have seen quite recently, I made quite a troll vid about the Conqueror where I shot nothing but HE just to prove how incredibly strong it is, and the same thing of course applies to the Lion. It's 419s with 48% fire chance compared to Missouri's 36% fire chance, means that angling against me is easily punished by switching to HE. First volley, an instant fire, and the Missouri makes the massive mistake of instantly damaged conning. I think he thinks he's safe because he's so far away and there's no real HE spamming cruisers around. He thinks he's safe enough to use his repair on that one fire. And you see, you're not safe of doing that against the Royal Navy battleships. Not the high tier, well, not really any of them, but look at this. Yep, triple fire with a single volley. So that's instant free fires on him, and those fires are going to burn a good 40%, even, well, actually probably more than 40% of his health pool away, and there's absolutely nothing he can do about it. And I'm not switching away from HE, because since he is angled, I still want to deal damage to him, and the HE alpha on the ship is of course amazing because we have these 419s, so you can just see the sheer damage you deal with the HE. That was only 4 hits, but it was still 5k damage. So that guy is burning nice and crisp, and I'm switching back to AP since I'm pretty much predicting this guy will be dead and I want to focus on the rest of the enemy. The Baltimore does get spotted. I'm gonna see if I can nail him. He's accelerating. I predict his acceleration. Can we get some Citadels perhaps? Only get one Citadel unfortunately, but of course the AP performance is very solid in this ship. Concealment wise, the concealment on the Lion is 11.5 with full concealment build. The Missouri in comparison with full concealment build reaches 12.2. So we got a 700 meter concealment advantage compared to him, which is of course 11.5 is already amazing for a battleship. The Conqueror takes it a step forward to 11.1, but still that's of course an amazing performance regardless. The health pool at 68k, I mean, it's not as high as what Missouri and such can reach, but you can kind of deal without it, because of course at tier 9 we already get access to this super heal, which means we are able to heal an absolutely insane amount should we need it. And quite easily able to Citadel the Baltimore from a very odd angle, because once again, as I said, the AP performance is just as good as the HE performance. And with the Missouri forced back, because of all the fires, and the Baltimore killed, I can kind of just keep steamrolling and pushing this flank, and there's really not too much the enemy can do. The Bismarck is pushing in, he is obviously nose in, so I switch to HE again. because, well, if you're gonna angle against me, then I'm just gonna burn you. You note that I was undetected there as well, because that's of course the fantastic concealment. Now, talking about the AA again that I mentioned earlier, the Lion and the Conqueror actually has a pretty damn nice advantage in the sense that they have no small caliber anti-air. Pretty much all their AA is 40mm ball force. And this has a default range of 3.5, so they have pretty much only mid-range AA. And the mid-range AA actually is insanely high. It's well over 500 DPS. This guy damage conned, instant second fire. That's how it goes. You can't damage con against the Lion until, well, 2 or 3 fires, but even then damage conning isn't going to be fun. Anyway, so the mid-range, you have pretty much only mid-range anti-air, which of course means that it's some of the most useful anti-air in the game. Long range is by far the most useful, but mid-range isn't bad either. So these full AA builds are not bad at all. Another 2 fires on him and 6k damage. He's got 3 fires he can't repair now, so he's obviously going to die. I already switched to AP because I know he's dead and I don't need to focus on him anymore. This turn, I have to take it very slowly. I'm keeping the island between me and the Missouri. But this turn I have to take it quite slowly, but I am in fact able to make this turn, and that's because the turning circle is pretty damn good. The turning circle is, I think, was it 830 meters? In comparison, the Missouri has a turning circle of 920, so it does have the turning circle advantage on the Missouri. Now, don't get me wrong, Ivan Missouri still had better long-range anti-air than the Lion, but my point is that anti-air is not in any way a weakness for this ship. It's not a weakness at all, which I find, which of course means that the ship really doesn't have any, just like the Conqueror, the ship doesn't really have any distinct weakness. In fact, if we had to pick a weakness, it would be the same thin armor that the Conqueror has, the Lion has as well, 32mm on the bow, stern, all over the deck and so forth. So that's a 32mm armor, so that would technically be the weakness. But of course, since you are able to get undetected kind of whenever you want to because of the great concealment, it's not really that much of a weakness to begin with. Benson is dropping an interesting smoke, which, I mean, I guess he's covering his buddies behind me or something, since my team is dragging their feet when it comes to pushing up. So I'm just gonna lead the charge as usual. Seeing if I can nail some... Oh, it's the carrier coming back. Now, the downside with this 40mm ball force, oh my god, you get so many, you get such a disgusting amount of AP pens on DDs with the Royal Navy line. I think it's, I don't really understand. It's probably because the shell behavior is very much like the North Carolinas, that you have these very slow and plunging type of shells, but the amount of pure pens I've gotten on DDs has been absolutely disgusting. It feels so consistent, and I mean, you can see the results whenever they try to angle, or, well, anytime you see DDs, you have this potential to just deal massive damage to them, and it's just brutal. It feels just brutal against them. They can't really do much. Amagi is angled. Of course, 419s, just like 406s, 410s, so forth, cannot overmatch Amagi knows. Maybe we should do for that Turpits, he's giving more broadside. Missouri is going to be a bit of an annoyance back there, but once again, I'm not as worried about giving a broadside to any other ship as I would be in another battleship, because they can't really Citadel me, and of course the ability to get undetected between every volley is so very strong. Every time I stop firing, I get undetected, and this happens like almost all the time. So people also have a hard time focusing on you, like focusing fire on you, because whenever you take the time to aim, you become undetected. A nice 11k volley on the Izuma, who was giving us broadside, and it looks like they're all pushing into B. The game is actually quite even though I've done a significant amount of damage. Does the Kiev really want to fight me? I do not recommend that option. He is accelerating. This Persian looks pretty nice. Oh, only overpens. Lucky for him, but I expect him to die because he's way too close to all of our fleet, and New Orleans was running radar. That explains maybe why he was spotted. Suma has a bit of a turtleneck. Let's see if we can hit him though. I want to turn in and brawl though, because, well, the ship is an excellent brawler as well, for obvious reasons. The turret traverse is slightly slower than Ivas and the Missouri's, but the completely underwater Citadel means that, well, if you're really close range to the opponent, they of course have absolutely no chance of hitting you. Like, really zero chance of hitting your Citadel. I don't really understand the logic of making these Citadels completely untouchable on these battleships lines lately. Sorry about the weird stuttering, by the way. You saw the way this like screen froze quickly for a second or so. That's something that has happened in the recent patch. There's some sort of micro stuttering happening. It's been ever since the latest patch. I don't know what they did, but something Wargaming did has really messed with the client, and I get that when I stream as well. Like, it just freezes for a brief second or so. It's almost like the game has to think or load or something, which doesn't make any sense considering my hardware is more than enough to run the game. It's just an optimization issue. Tried to nail the Chapayev and save our carrier, but no such luck. The Chapayev is gonna come around the island and probably kill him. Anyway, as I was saying, I don't really understand the logic of making these citadels completely untouchable for these various battleships. It really doesn't make any sense to me, because they haven't touched cruiser citadels at all. Cruisers and battleships, unlike cruisers, can actually angle against these AP volleys, and they got the armor to tank them, and all they need to do is not sail like idiots, and hitting a battleship citadel is incredibly difficult. Whereas cruisers can pretty much angle as much as they want, they can dodge, they can weave, and if they get unlucky they will still get citadel because they don't have the armor to deal with it, and they have such high exposed citadels. So I don't understand why Wargaming is going on this somewhat recent crusade with the German battleships and now the Royal Navy battleships of completely hiding the citadel and making it completely untouchable. I mean, it's really hard to not see it as catering to the battleship population and making these ships even more idiot-proof. And it's really hard to justify playing cruisers when, well, they make the cruisers so easily citadelable, and then they make the battleships completely impossible. I don't understand why are they being so forgiving to do all the recent battleships, and why are they being so punishing to the cruisers. I have not heard them ever talk about addressing the way cruisers eat citadels. And I mean, citadels on cruisers are massive because they have so much less health pool as well. So citadel cruisers are a massive big issue for them. And cruisers get citadeled far more often than battleships get citadeled. So I have to wonder, why do they keep doing this? Like, what's even the point? What I don't understand is, what's even the point of having a citadel if it's never going to be hit, if it's never going to be touched? Because one of the downsides, one of the weaknesses of this so-called super heal that the Royal Navy has would be citadel damage, of course, because citadel damage cannot be healed the same way as pens and fire and such can be healed. You can only heal 10% of citadel damage. So that would be a weakness. A way to punish this healing would be if a Royal Navy battleship sails poorly, you hit a few citadels on him and he's not able to heal it up the same way. That would be a good counter, like a good way to deal with it. But instead, you're never going to hit the citadel. The citadel is untouchable. So that of course means that the heal is automatically always going to be incredibly strong unless you eat a bunch of torpedoes. So I don't really understand the logic behind this, and it's really hard to not see it as Wargaming really like pampering and pandering to the least skilled player base, and kind of making the game in general a bit more idiot-proof. I felt like the lowering of the US battleship line, the lowering of those citadels was part of this. Now we see these battleships, Ivas and Montanas, we see them sailing full broadside like complete idiots, and it's extremely hard to punish them with citadels because, well, they've lowered the citadel, and for not really, in my opinion, much reason at all. There would have been various different ways they could have buffed both the Montana and Iowa, and well, Missouri didn't really need any buffs, but there would have been various ways they could have buffed these lines without lowering the citadel. My idea of buffing the Montana to make it more competitive was to make it more maneuverable. giving it faster turning and faster acceleration, and making it the maneuverable out of the two, because you're not going to outbrawl a Kurfürst and you're not going to outsnipe a Yamato, so why not give the Montana a unique identity by making it the most maneuverable tier 10 battleship. And good players could of course use this to various advantages and so forth, but instead they went for the most brain-dead approach, which was making the Citadel pretty much unhittable, and I think that's a terrible approach, and it kind of lowers the overall skill required in the game, since they make ships more idiot-proof, and that's one of my issues with the Royal Navy battleships. All the Citadels on them seem to be completely underwater, completely untouchable, and well, it makes it very, very idiot-proof. Anyways, sorry about the rant. The Lion, though, extremely strong. Just like the Conqueror, fantastically strong. The game ends, not really that much damage. I have had higher damage games, but I felt like this game showed off all the strengths of the ship. The great concealment, disappearing between every volley. The anti-air is very strong. The HE and fires are of course fantastically strong, since we have the 419 guns. The AP performance is great as well. There are really no downsides besides the lower HP pool and the lower armor. But of course both of those issues are not nearly as big of a deal, because the concealment is so great, and because the anti-air is so great, carriers don't really want to hang around near you and try to spot you regardless. So it kind of counters its own weaknesses extremely well. Looking at the team score, 2.7k, which is of course nice. 21 planes shot down. Could have been more if my AA hadn't been destroyed. If you take a lot of hits, your AA does go down significantly, but it's still very, very strong. And if you look at detailed report, well, almost a wither worth of fires, because, well, Bismarck repaired when he pushed into me, and Missouri repaired as he was reversing away from me, and that automatically means a very high fire chance. And of course, if we look at it, how ridiculous the fire chance is, we can see that we landed 23 HE shells. We landed 23 HE shells, and with those 23 HE hits, we started 8 fires that did almost a wither worth of damage, because of course we shot at the same target. They repair, we shoot again, they can't repair, and it's going to be a full duration burn. And then AP performance, very solid as well, 43 hits, 100k damage. So just fantastic. And I ended the game extremely healthy, even though I tanked. This was actually, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is a Dreadnought's worth of tankiness. I tanked more than 120% of my own health pool here. And no, actually not quite, but very close to 120%. And so pretty much this is close to a Dreadnought worth of tanking, but at the end of the game I was perfectly healthy, and that of course shows off the insane healing potential that you have. So the Lion is, well, I kind of put it on the level of the Missouri, which I considered already overpowered and to be the strongest tier 9 battleship. I kind of put it on the same level as the Missouri. You don't have the radar the Missouri has, but in return you have all these various other strengths that just makes it a fantastic battleship. And ships like Izumo, Friedrich Grosse, they are nothing compared to this one. I mean, they can't even compete with just how strong the Lion is. So that means more power creep at tier 9. But then again, this is a work in progress, and we can only hope that the ship doesn't get released as it is, because I think both the Lion and the Conqueror need some serious rebalancing before release, because they have only good sides and almost no downsides at all. And when you make ships like that, they are quite naturally overpowered. Anyway, let's move on to my recommended build for this ship. Right, as usual, I would normally start with the modules, but I wanted to start this by giving you an example. I did mention that the Citadel on the ship was even lower than the Missouri Citadel, and I want to give you an example. So here we have the Missouri Citadel. You can see it's right at the waterline. You can see how the Citadel starts right at the waterline pretty much. So you kind of have to hit the very, very edge of the water, or you have to get some plunging shells in order to Citadel the Missouri. The Lion, on the other hand, yep, even lower. You can see the difference between the waterline and where the Citadel starts. This one sits even lower in the water. So the Lion is nigh impossible to Citadel. Anyway, Moving on, of course, let's get rid of the armor layout. Upgrade-wise, I think the absolute first upgrade you should get is the hull upgrade. Not only does it significantly bolster your AA more than the rating indicates, it also gives you almost 10k health. You go from sitting at 58.6 to sitting at, what is it, 67.9. So it's almost a 10k buff. So very much worth it, a huge upgrade in health pool. So the hull upgrade is naturally the first one. After that I would probably get, I think you can do pretty well with the 18.9 range. It can be tricky when dealing with tier 10s, but I would probably go for the gun upgrade, because the gun upgrade is just a straight up upgrade. There's no reason to run the lower caliber guns. They reload exactly the same, the turret traverse is exactly the same, the dispersion is exactly the same. The only difference is that the higher caliber guns have better damage and better fire chance. So obviously this is a straight up upgrade with no doubts and no confusion. So get the gun upgrade, get the range, and finally get the speed, which is only a 1.5 knot increase. Consumable wise, premium repair, premium heal, followed by upgrade one, well of course, and premium spotter plane if you can afford it. You don't need a premium fighter plane because, as I said, your mid-range anti-air is absolutely amazing, so it's not going to help much in that sense. Upgrade wise, main armaments mod 1 and aiming systems mod 1. Now if you do queue with a carrier, or if it's during the carrier mission, running the AA guns mod to buff this mid-range from, if you run AFT, from 4.2 to 5 km will make you a very fearsome anti-air ship, so that is also an option. I prefer the better dispersion though. Faster reload on the guns because your range at 20.7 is more than enough. Tankiness and concealment. The option to run steering gears does exist, but once again, because you are coated in 32mm armor and HE spammers will love you, I do prefer to reduce the HE duration. I also think the rudder shift on the ship is pretty damn good, because as I mentioned, I'm running the tankiness on this guy and I got a 15.8 second rudder shift, and on the Missouri I'm running the rudder shift and it has a 15.5, so you literally match Missouri's rudder shift even when you run the tankiness. So if you would run the rudder shift, this one of course becomes insanely maneuverable, but I don't think it is that necessary for the Lion. Captain perks wise, I'm still running the Jack Dunkirk build, which of course involves going preventive maintenance, turret traverse, superintendent, concealment. That's pretty much a basic for all Royal Navy battleships, followed by AR, followed by, depending on how many carriers we face, I prefer running fire prevention, but AFT to increase that AA range isn't a bad idea at all. Like, this is gonna be the big debate, I think, about Royal Navy battleships. Do you run fire prevention or to deal with the weakness you have, or do you run AFT to bolster one of the strengths you have? So this is going to be kind of the big deal, which one of these two do you run. And then of course Jack of all trades, which is even better for Jack Dunkirk, and a priority target. Even if I didn't have Jack Dunkirk, I would probably run this build anyway because it's so very good for the ship. And yeah, flag wise, well, the basic battleship flags of course, which is healing, fire prevention, and November Foxtrot. Once again, if we're dealing with a lot of carriers, we can run AA, and if we want more speed, Sierra Mike isn't a bad option since it would bolster it to 31 knots. But overall though, that was my Lion commentary. Oh no, I gotta show you guys the camo. I want to show you guys the premium camo. That's what the premium camo looks like. Once again, not a bad looking camo. I don't think any of these premium camos look that bad. They're not that special, but overall I think they're pretty good looking. So not a bad option. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. That was my Lion commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.